Hi, this is Tamara coming to you from the Makerspace, and today we're going to learn how to do macrame. Well, before we get started, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about what materials you might want to use. When I first got it started doing this, I actually was trying to do it with yarn, and you can see that this sample right here, it's okay. It's really not okay. It was tiny and you can't really see what the knots are. I did not like this yarn whatsoever. As you can see, I cut off the edges. It just doesn't look good. And then I went to a thicker yarn and it went a lot better. You can see that you can actually tell what the knots are, but it's still not the best materials to use. Then I started using the actual stuff that's recommended for macrame, and that's some macrame cord, and you can see even better, a lot clearer on the knots, and you can see all the different details, and it's just much better to work with as well. It doesn't knot quite so bad. You know, the extra fibers are really tied up inside the cord. There's another type of macrame material you can use, and that is natural jute, and I made this carry-all with it. You can see that it's got a lot better, it's also a lot better to work with. I enjoyed working with that. So that's this natural jute, and here is the cord that I got with the macrame. And I also kind of want to show you a little bit of fun things that I got with the macrame kit. You can get your materials all separately, or you can buy a kit. I bought a kit, and I just wanted to show you some of the fun stuff that came with it. So along with the cords, as you can see right here, it also came with these rounds, some sticks for you to work on, and of course these really lovely little beads. I love those beads. They are so pretty, and that's what I made my owl from, and I just love this owl. It's so cute. But anyways, what you came here for is to learn all the basic knots, and I'm going to show you some of the things that I've been learning recently. So a lot of people will recommend a lot of different things to use to actually do the knotting and your macrame project. I have found that, of course, the cord is what we're going to be using today. It's very useful to have a pair of scissors to cut everything when you're done. It is useful to have a clipboard. You know, what's with the clipboard? Well, it will help anchor your project as you're working on. You know, the carry-all that I did early. Showed you a second ago, that I did on this clipboard, and you can see that with my measurements I actually made these little markers here on the clipboard with the tape, and that helped me keep track of where I needed to stop for one section to another. Another thing too is this tape is very useful as well. You can put it onto the clipboard what you're working on. You can also tape something to your table as well to help keep it steady and keep it from moving around when you're doing your knots. I've seen a lot of great videos. I've learned from a lot of great videos where they have this beautiful standing bar that they've been knotting off of. Unfortunately, that's not a setup that I have, but I think that it's just as easy to work off the table. But let's go ahead and go through some of our knots. Okay, so the first knot I want to show you is the lark's head knot. The lark's head knot is the very basic knot that you're going to use to start any macrame project that you're going to be doing. So you take your cord and you have whatever you have cut, and you have this nice little loop in the middle. and you're going to put it over your bar or through the loop, the hoop that you're going to be using, and you grab the cord through your loop, and there is your first knot. This is the lark's head knot. Now, when I was first starting, it was much more natural for me to just put my loop around the pole like this, because it's much more natural for me to pull the cord through the loop that way. Well, that is a way that you can do it. It is called a reverse lark's head knot, and I was doing it where I would do all of them that direction, and I just turn over so that I could see this nice little ridge right here. All right, you can see that I have used tape to anchor my ring down, and that's basically because the clipboard really couldn't handle the thickness of it, and so this is just a good example of what you can use your tape for. I have done 2 lark's head knots, and you can see that that has created 4 cords, and I'm going to show you how to do a square knot, and it's going to use all 4 cords. So what we're going to do first is we're going to separate these 2 outside cords here and leave the 2 here in the middle. And these 2 are your guidelines. You will never use this for knotting for the actual knot that we're using. These on the outsides, however, are going to be what your knots are going to be made out of. Okay, so I'm going to take this right cord here, and I'm going to put it across my 2 middle ones on top. You can see it is on top. It has created this nice loop here. I'm going to take my left cord, and I'm going to put it on top of this right cord that we've done. And as you can see, this is where it gets a little tricky. I'm going to put it underneath the 2 middle cords. So you can see I've got my left cord is on top of the right cord and underneath the 2 middle ones. And now I'm going to take the end of my left cord and run it through this loop that I have created with the right one. And there is the beginning of our knot. And now all I'm going to do is just tighten it. And as you can see, I'm kind of guiding those middle lines so that they remain straight while I tighten my knot. Okay, so here is an important step. You think, got it. Let's just keep going. Well, that's what I did when I first started, and I learned that that was actually a totally different knot, and I'll show you that in just a moment. So we were doing a right-facing knot. Now let's do a left-facing knot. Okay, so we had our cord before where it was like this. This was our right cord. Well, we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to do it with the left cord. So now you've got your nice loop right there, and you're going to take your right cord and you're going to put it over on top of the left cord. So the left cord is on top of the center 2 middle cords, and the right cord is now on top of the left cord. We're going to pull it down underneath those 2 middle cords. Okay, so I know it sounds complicated, but we're making knots, and that is the basics, is knowing where to go over and where to go under, and this is actually easy compared to some of the other ones, and I will tell you a little bit more about that in just a minute. But I'm going to now take that right cord and put it through that loop that we made with the left cord, and we're going to straighten and straighten and straighten. All right, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to do it with the right cord. Left cord goes over and under and through. See how nice and smooth that was? I'm going to make sure those are in straight. Okay, we're going to do it one more time with the left cord, and then I'm going to show you something here. Go over, under, and through. Once you get the hang of it, it's automatic, which can be problematic. And the reason why is because I was doing, I was working on this project yesterday, and I was going left and right and left and right. And then I started going, wait, was that left? Was that right? Which direction am I going? And I finally figured out what it is that I need to use to help me with that. If you look here on the knots that we've already made, we have ridges on each knot that you make. And so you can see that this ridge right here is on the right side. That will signal to me that I am going to make a right side loop now. Okay, so I'm going to do my right facing loop. So I'm going to do my right side over the two middle. I'm going to do my left over and under, and then through. And you remember we started with the right loop. Now when we finish our knot, you're going to see the ridge is now on the left side, and that tells me to start with the left loop. So if you lose track of where you were and counting, was I doing the right or the left, right, left, you can see, ta-da, this will tell you which direction to start with next. So if you are doing a left facing knot, it will always end with a right ridge. If you're doing a right facing knot, it will always end with a left ridge. And there you go. That is our square knot. Here we go back again with our lark's head knots, and we've got the two here for this next knot that we're going to do, and we're about to show you the spiral knot. So let's go ahead and get started. Once again, we have our two lines in the center, and we're going to separate out these two on the ends, and I'm going to do a right knot where I put my right end over the two middle. And then I'm going to take my left line here and go over that, under the middle, and through my loop here. And I'm going to tighten that up. Wait a second, what did you just say? That's the knot that we just did. Well, of course. This is where I told you I messed up earlier. So when I first started, I was like, bam, 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 I got this going. I'm going to do them all the same way. Well, that is going to create a spiral if you do it all in the same right-facing knots every single time. So let me just show you what that's going to look like. And as you can see, it is now starting to turn. I'm going to try this one more time, and it's a little bit harder, so now I'm actually going to turn it over and do it and just keep going until it just keeps spiraling. And as you can see, this is the effect that you would finally eventually end up with. Okay, the next knot I'm going to show you is going to require a lot of these lark's head knots, and I just want to show you that I did these in the correct direction, but I accidentally did this one in the wrong direction. So that is something to be very careful of. You want to make sure that all of your lark's head knots are pointing in the right direction. So I'm going to just go ahead and fix it. It's not as natural to do it this way, but you'll get used to it as you go along. And there we go. Now we have 6 of these lark's head knots, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to show you the most challenging knot that I have done to date. And I'm constantly having to redo this over and over again because it's just not as easy to me. It's not natural. It's not instinctive. But as you go along, you'll notice that the more you do it, the better you get. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I actually started doing macrame this last weekend. And so I went from this lovely failed blue yarn thing from the beginning to this beautiful owl, and that was just last night. And you can see there, the more you do it, the better you get. And if I can do it within a weekend, you can too. So let me go ahead and show you what I think is the most challenging knot, and for at least for me right now, and that is the diagonal half hitch. And I apologize to you if this does not go well at the very beginning, because like I said, I started doing this about a week over the weekend. So let's keep our fingers crossed. Okay, so we have 6 lark's head knots here, and I want to divide these up evenly. So as you can tell, when you make your lark's head knot, you're creating 2 cords per cord here. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Ooh, that's a lot. I'm going to take one of these off. I'm just going to work with 4 of these. Okay, so I'm working with 4 lark's head knots. Ha, 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 ha. Okay, so now that leaves me with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm going to divide that up in the middle, 4 on each side. And I'm going to start with this one right here. So the thing that is really cool about this knot, the diagonal half hitch, is that you're going to take your lead rope and you're going to put it in whatever direction you want to make your knots in. So they call it a diagonal half hitch because you're actually a lot of times making diagonals with it. Now, I've seen some where they've actually done a row straight across, but the trick or the tip on that is that your stitch is going to go wherever your lead line goes. So if you have it up here, all of your knots are going to go in that direction. If you do it in diagonal, your knots are going to go in a diagonal. All right, so I have my lead line over the lines that I'm going to be doing the knots with. And I'm going to start with this one, and I'm going to take this and go over this original lead line. So now my first cord that I'm going to be knotting with is now over and creating this lovely loop, and I'm going to take my cord through that loop. So let's just do that over again. I'm going to go over, creating the loop. So now it's on top of the lead line. The loop is here. I'm going to pull my fingers through that loop and pull that cord through it, and then I'm just going to pull it up. And look, that looks very similar to my original lark's head knot, but we have to do that twice per cord. So I'm going to go over again, put my fingers through that loop, pull it through, and there we go. Let's finish that up. And we're going to do that with the next one. Okay. Over. Let's create that loop. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but as long as you get your cord going through the hole the best that the correct way, it's still going to create the knot the correct way. And there is my second. And you can see that we're starting to make that diagonal. Let's do that one more time. Okay, so I'm going to go over. I've created my loop. I'm going to put my fingers through that loop and pull that cord through and pull it up. And I'm going to create that knot. I'm going to do it one more time to finish the knot. So you always do a knot twice to make sure that it is finished and secure, unless otherwise told in your pattern. All right, so I want to show you a couple of things. One was an aha moment that I had last night, and that is when I finished my knot, not my lead line, that's my lead line, but when I finished my knot the second time, you're going to see that it looks like a reverse lark's head knot. And so doing those knots twice creates that lark's head knot look. And as you can see in my owl, that is used quite a bit of times throughout patterns, and you can see that they go in lots of different directions. Let's do it on the other side. And true confession, this is where my brain stops working. Okay, so I get my lead line, and I'm going to go across my other lines and take my diagonal. This is where I always mess up, is like, where am I making my loop? There's my loop. So I'm going to put my finger through that loop, and I'm going to pull it up. Oh, that looks pretty good. All right, let's do it again. You know, if you stop and you think about it, sometimes that makes it work a lot better. So I've created my loop. I am pulling that up through the loop. Now, I want to tell you that you can always guide your knots as you're going, so that if it doesn't quite, like, for example, when I was working on this owl, I'm going to use this as an example a lot of times. When I was doing these up here, this is the diagonal half hitch. When I was doing this up here, I had already done these stitches, and so there was a gap between this these cords here and these cords because of these stitches that I had already done. So I actually had to tighten it up and move my knots up a little bit as I was going along, just to make sure that everything was together. All right, let's keep going. I have my lead line here. I have my second cord, my knotting cord. Okay, so I'm going to go over. I've created my loop. Then I will pull the cord through that loop. I'm going to pull it up just so you can see right there that I want to make sure that it is tight and in the shape that I want it to be. I'm going to do it one more time. So when I stop thinking on this side is when I usually make my mistakes. And I'm thankfully doing this pretty well today, because normally I'd be like, oh, let me take that out. I'm going to do it all over again. So, okay, so I've got my lead line. I've got my cord, making my loop, pulling my cord through. And you can see I am making sure that goes where I want it to go. And do it one final time. Guys, I know this is challenging. Do it again, do it again, do it again. Think about your loops, think about what goes over, what goes under, and you're going to be fine. Just keep doing it, because if you just practice and practice and practice, it's going to make it look really great. And you're going to finally go, ah, oh, that's it. I figured it out. That is how to make the knots. So there you go. Are you ready to take the macrame challenge? I know it's a journey. I was actually had a good time going on it, but you know, at first I was kind of like, oh, it just wasn't working quite right for me. But I persevered, I practiced, I had patience, and I went from that not so great job to this beautiful owl. And you know, if you work on it and you find the right project to practice, you're going to have a good time with it. If you want to come into the Makerspace, we are here from Tuesday through Saturday. And if you have any questions, please give us an email at makerspace@arlingtontx.org. I'll see you soon.